Hey there, bio students, and welcome to another awesome podcast. This podcast is about natural selection. If you take a look at the picture here, hopefully you'll recognize this guy. This is our modern elephant. And you can see that our modern elephant has changed very gradually over time. And that's our topic of today's conversation: how organisms change over time. Today we're going to understand how natural selection allows for organisms to change over time. So we're going to be talking about evolution. In order for natural selection to occur, we need to have genetic variation. So we're going to take a look at the genetic variation, or the differences within groups of organisms. We're also going to show how environmental pressures can influence how an organism is able to survive and reproduce. So as our buddy Darwin here says, push pause and write down our learning target. All right, and we're back. So our first question today is, what is evolution? And we said before that evolution is changes over time. Now, it's important to understand that evolution is changes in populations over time. It's not individual organisms, but groups of organisms. Evolution also helps us to explain how our modern organisms, like our elephant, descended from ancient ancestors over thousands or even millions of years. What we want to do next is try to understand why and how evolution occurs. Evolution occurs when there's a change in our gene frequency, okay, within a population. Remember, our genes determine our traits. So if we take a look at the traits of a population, we can help to determine what genes the population has. For example, if I have a population of 10 beetles, and let's say 7 of those beetles are blue, and 3 of those beetles are green. This is my gene pool. Now, changes in the environment can lead to changes in that gene pool. Maybe after a certain change, we now only have 4 blue beetles, and now we have 6 green beetles. This is our new gene pool. So as gene pools change, remember, some genes are more popular than others. Before our environmental change, our blue genes were more popular. After the environmental change, our green genes were more popular. So what we want to do next is to understand what causes these changes. How do we go from 7 blue beetles to only 4 blue beetles? There are 4 ways that evolution can occur. We're going to be discussing this first way, natural selection, today. We'll be discussing mutations, gene flow, and genetic drift at another time. So let's talk about how natural selection occurs. There are several steps that need to occur before we can have natural selection. And the first is simple. We have differences within a group of individuals. So we can see in this population of rabbits, we have white rabbits and gray rabbits and brown rabbits. Those are our variation in our traits. Now, all living things want to reproduce, and that can lead to overpopulation. And that becomes a problem because environments can't support that unlimited population. There's just not enough resources, space, food, water. And so not all individuals are able to survive. So again, as populations grow, the competition for resources becomes increased. And again, not all organisms are going to be able to survive. So that leads us to differential survival. This means that organisms that are best suited or best adapted to their environments are going to survive. Those traits that help an organism survive are what we call adaptations. So let's take a look at our population of rabbits one more time. Our rabbits live in the forest, and as you can see, the brown and gray rabbits blend in much more with the surrounding leaves than the white rabbits or the black rabbits or the blue rabbit. So in addition to competing for resources, they're also trying to survive the hawk. And as the hawk hunts, it's going to be able to see the white rabbits and the blue rabbits and the black rabbits much more easily than the rabbits that have better camouflage. So that fur color, brown or gray, is their adaptation. It helps them to survive. And that's the goal of all organisms, to survive. Now, once an organism is able to survive, it's also able to reproduce more than the organisms that die out. And this is what we call differential reproduction. The surviving individuals are going to reproduce, and because genes are passed from one generation to the next, those surviving traits get passed down to the next generation. So our brown and gray rabbits are going to be reproducing more often than our white rabbits. And this can lead to changes in our gene pools. Our white rabbits become less common because our white rabbits fail to reproduce. Our brown rabbits and our gray rabbits pass on their genes, and those genes become more common because they're able to survive and reproduce more often. Over time, this can lead to population changes. So today what we did is we took a look at how natural selection, or survival of the fittest, allows organisms to change over time or to evolve. Remember, natural selection requires genetic variation or differences within traits in a population. Those differences can help them to survive, and if they're able to survive, they're able to reproduce and pass on their traits. I hope you enjoyed this podcast about natural selection. Make sure that you answer the analysis questions at the end of your notes, and we'll see you next time.